study is this pre-scene is good for the November 2023 and Feb 2024 exam, as I already explained it to you. Um, then, as I told you that this cup car is part of automobile, the industry, automobile industry. So, as such, automobile dealer industry itself is not a separate industry. We could always consider any, the segment of the industry as an independent industry as well. But primarily speaking, that that the dealerships of the cars are part of the automobile industry because those dealerships are just the distribution channel for those automobile companies. So you could see in our country that we do have the dealerships of the various car manufacturers. So those are considered as a part and parcel of the automobile industry because those dealerships are given by or authorized by the manufacturers themselves. So it is an integral part of the automobile industry. There is a lot of control those manufacturers actually exercise on the dealership because a dealership is a kind of a manufacturer's outlet, you know, because that dealership is is designed, they brand that dealership, the outlay of that dealership is actually approved by the manufacturer. So it is not like that any company, these dealership companies, they could have their own choice or they could have the dealership in accordance to their own wish. Yes, there is a certain a discretion, but you would see that most of the dealership of a one manufacturer would be looking like similar because they want to make it look like their own office. And that exclusivity actually gives the some of the benefits to the dealerships and obviously to the manufacturers as well. There is a thought behind it, like having a exclusive outlet. That there is a thought behind it is that the manufacturer wants that when the customer would be visiting that outlet or a dealership, they should feel as if they are in the office of that manufacturer's sales office of that automobile manufacturer, right? So that as I told you that going into the too much detail of the industry detail doesn't help in the exam. It is just to get the idea of an industry and this automobile industry. You all know that how it works. We have already discussed briefly about it. So when you go to a dealership, generally in our layman language we call it the car showroom. Those are actually the dealership of the manufacturer. So you will see that that it would be looking something like that. As I ask you guys to spare some time and visit a dealership which is close to your home, that will actually give you an idea that how our dealership looks like. This is Toyota's dealership probably, so that's why you could see that these all of the cars. It's just a random picture, no specific reason, just to show that how the dealership actually looks like. There is a the receptionist might be standing here. Then there are the counters here, where there might be a sales manager sitting here. Then there are the office as well, where the dealership principal or the principal dealership principal or the principal dealership might sit. Or you could say that in some of the dealerships, those are called the general managers. But whatever the name you give it, you can give it to that role. But their actually the assignment, their task is to manage the affairs of the all of the affairs of the dealership, right? So there is another picture. Again, this is a pictorial. The one picture is better than the thousand words. So instead of giving the detailed description of the dealerships, I just took some pictures to explain you. I have I am visiting the dealerships, for the maintenance work of my car. So you might have also been to a dealership for the to purchase a car or for the maintenance of your car. That they got a showroom, and then on generally on the back side of the showroom there is an auto workshop that is a fully auto. That you will be see that fully equipped and with all those equipments which are not generally there in ordinary maintenance shop. If you will go there on any auto workshop, you won't see that type of the equipment on those workshop. But at a dealership, the workshop would be fully equipped, and that they would be having the trained staff. There would be these, you know, the slots for the maintenance, and that the multiple cars could the maintenance work could be done on the multiple cars in the workshop. So this is the workshop. So basically these are the two major portion of any dealership. Then there is a car lot. They have told us, I think that the picture is not here, but there is another picture as well. The car lot is actually the cars standing outside the dealership. It is open area. Um, you know, because of the limited area available in the showroom, some of the showrooms would be parking the cars in a parking lot. The large, uh, the the dealerships, they would be having the huge car lots, especially these used car dealers, Japanese car importer. If you might have seen that Japan Motors and these Jahangir Motors, some of the names randomly that those are coming to my mind. If you ever visited them, you will see that they do have the huge car lots. Their cars are parked outside. Only a few cars are parked inside the showroom, and the rest of the cars are parked outside. So, as I told you, that the dealerships are the part of the automotive industry or the automobile industry. So, this is just a brief analysis. Again, this is just to give you a brief idea. We are not going to get into the details of the industry, real world industry. Um, the industry information for the dealership has been given in your pre-scene, and I believe that that information is more than enough to get an idea that how a dealership industry or the dealership works. You would see that in your pre-scene they don't use the word dealership industry anywhere, because this is actually the automobile industry, and the dealerships are the integral part of the automobile industry. So that's why in the pre-scene you would not find anywhere they would be saying that a dealership industry. So the so do I. This is similar on a similar way. I would also be not categorizing it as an industry, but that doesn't make any difference. By the way, in exam, if you see that they are using the word dealership industry, you should not be scared of. It's just like understanding. So, if we would be doing the political analysis, these pest analysis or the pestle analysis of the automotive industry, the political factor in most countries, government have issued regulation regarding the would regarding have issued regarding the production of automobile parts to ensure the safety of passengers. Now, you know that the safety is an integral part of automotive industry. You will see that these safety features are introduced in the cars. There, you used to have the basic safety feature like the seat belt, etc. Long time ago, when we used to going to the schools in Mehran, there was not a seat belt. You know that in 90s, I believe. No, they were not providing even the seat belt. I remember that one of my friends, the families, one of my friends' families, they bought the car, and the traffic police a guy stopped them because they were not wearing the belt, and they told that that it doesn't have the belt, so we can wear the belt, etc., etc. So, but now there are the strict regulations on the safety, and the car manufacturers not only introducing the basic safety features, but the advanced safety features such as those airbag, etc. Then there are anti-collision systems in more advanced car. You know that. So those are under certain, the safety rules. So car manufacturers are introducing those features in the car. So administrations are also keen to restrict the ample usage of fossil fuel, which create more pollutants. So in order to ensure the sustainable business practices, the manufacturers are uh, putting a lot of investment in research and development in order to introduce the fuel efficient engines. And we have seen that in the recent past, these hybrid cars and then the electrical cars are introduced in the market. There are two reasons for it. The one is that the fuel prices are going up. Fuel is depleting. Fuel resources are depleting. So that the human we need to have an alternative. So one reason is this, and the other one is that the pollution. So a dealership of a manufacturer whose cars are more fuel efficient and emit the less pollution would be getting a positive feedback of the customers. You know that they would be um, getting that the more appreciation in the market for their responsible business practices, right? Sustainable, responsible business practices. So that's something which is political, economic. Then the income of the people from stable and emerging economic zones are increasing day by day. That is the reason that although in our country, even we all complain about the inflation and all that, but if you would compare that how many cars we do have today, that with the cars we used to have 20 years ago, you will find that the number of the cars have increased considerably. And the reason is that the income of the people improving over the period. I remember that at a one time in our vicinity, or you could say that in the place where I used to live, there were only the couple of houses they had the car. If you talk about the early 90s when we all used to go to the school, I don't know which age bracket you are. So if I would be recalling my childhood, so you know that at that time there were the few houses they used to have the car, but now you will see that in every house you will find a car in their garage. So this is because of the economic growth and the increase in the earning power of the people. Many countries have imposed tax on luxury car item, um, which has increased their price, and hence a specific section of buyers may not choose to buy one. That is again, that when somebody is buying an expensive car, luxury car, the government says that they do have the more responsibility towards the society, so they should pay the more taxes. So the tax is a money which is a government public money, and that is spent on the people from the spent on the common people. So you know that is also giving the economic benefit. Even if somebody is buying an luxury car, it's not a bad thing in a good society. It's a good thing, that the people will have the capacity, and if they are buying it, they are actually contributing to the society in a shape of paying the taxes, high taxes as well. Social cars are not only vehicles but are a fashion statement. We know that people buying those luxury cars, and even in our country, cars are considered as a status symbol. People driving those huge cars. Why? There's a status symbol. Population distribution of a country also impact the sales of the cars. That's important that how much of the the population falls in the middle class, how much of population falls in the high class, and the lower middle class, and then that obviously the middle and lower middle and the high class, they would be buying the cars. The people who are living like in the primary class, I don't know what's, I'm skipping the name, so they won't be able to buy the car. So that's also dependent. And if having a large middle class means that high demand. That's again what's happening in our country. But if we see the well land, we have been told that country having the economic prosperity, and the people have the sources, good sources of the income. So that they could buy the cars. But luxury cars in any country, the luxury cars, uh, the buyers of the luxury car are not so common. So that's why the sale of the luxury car is also is low in terms of the number. Technological analysis, if we do the technological uh, analysis, the automobile industry is hugely dependent on automotive technology to ensure the safety of the people. And the companies need to concentrate on the reduction of emissions. So there are the two aspects that are being emphasized by the manufacturer. One is safety, and they are introducing the new safety features. You must have seen that now when we go out there to buy a car, we ask them how much airbags you do have in that car. And having the more airbags means that the car is more safe. And then the company on the reduction of emission of pollution is an important consideration. The car manufacturers need to, take into account. So that's an important consideration. They give it a lot of importance. They are introducing the technologies, the car engines, which are using the less fuel efficient and generates the low pollution. For the dealership, these all things are related to the dealership because the car which has been manufactured by the automobile actually would be sold by the dealerships. So if a car is fuel efficient and that it emits the less pollution, that would be more desirable in any society compared to the car which is not fuel efficient and emits the more pollution, right? Then the environmental considerations as emission from the vehicle is a concern for the environmentalist and the government. So that's an important factor. Technology and environment are linked to each other. If somebody joins now, so you could allow them. I believe that you do have that. All of you have uh, that type of the rights to allow someone. So the government of the countries are more willing to take up the environmental policies to decrease the pollution level. The legal many countries have strict laws to decrease the number of vehicles on the street, which can help them to lower the air pollution level. Uh, you might be surprised to listen that, or it might already be in your knowledge that in Singapore there is a certain number of the vehicles which are allowed because of the size of the country and because of the availability of the roads. They have restricted the number of vehicles to a certain limit. So if you want to buy a new car, you will have to apply for that, and then that if somebody would be disposing of their car, and then that they have a whole system that works, and it is not like that the one fine morning you go there and buy the car. No, you need to take a permission to buy a car, and the reason is that they want to control the pollution and the number of cars on the roads in order to avoid the congestion, traffic jams, etc. So legal, the things which also those are also important. And this is, by the way, not related to the automobile industry. This is something which is related to the specific country. But the legal things are important in a manner that some of the countries they put a restriction that a car emitting carbon from beyond this level would not be allowed on the road. In our country, those these traffic police guys, or I believe those are the excise guys. I don't know who are those actually. They actually test the car. They see that how much pollution it is emitting, and sometimes they give a challan to them, and they could stop their car being operated on the roads. In the modern countries, it is more strict and more. They keep a more better control, or they keep a better control. So during the forensic test of an accident, if it is proved that there was any problem with the faulty parts or airbag, the company may have to face a legal proceedings. You must have seen that uh, in the recent past there had been a couple of accidents on the motorway, accidents of the buses on the motorway, and they were then after that accident they were scrutinizing and they found out that the car was not actually fit to travel on drive or was not fit to drive on the motorway, and that was a lot of concern on about it. So similarly, that the if the car doesn't have the primary safety features, that could become a regulatory and reputational risk for that manufacturer. So just imagine that if a manufacturer is facing this type of a situation and you are a dealer of that manufacturer, so it's going to have an impact on your dealership as well. The people would not be buying the car. There might be a lot of car coming back to the dealership. The people might be bringing it back to your dealership. We have seen that in the pre-scene. It has been told that if there is a fault in a car, and that the manufacturer asks to return get those cars back for the checkup, the people would be bringing it to the dealership. Although the dealerships would be getting paid for the services that they would be providing to the customer, those services would be charged to the manufacturer, but ultimately it would be having a negative impact on your sales. That's very important. You might be thinking that that it would be having an impact on the manufacturer, not the dealership. It would be having a impact on the dealership, because we know that the sale of the new and used cars actually actually that is the demand which derive the demand for the other products as well. So although we don't make money from the sale of the new car, but the sale of the new car actually opens the other avenues of revenue for the dealership, such as the maintenance, warranties, etc. We're going to see that in the later part of the analysis. Okay, here you should forget about these percentages. It is just to give you an idea that what are the uh, some of the top concerns for any franchise dealer. One of our friend was asking that this franchise and dealership is what's the difference? So these are the same thing. The dealerships are the franchises of the automobile manufacturers. Here in some we for the telecommunication companies we call it just the franchise. For the automotive industry we call those franchise the dealerships. So this is the same business model. The business model is the same. So for top concern for the franchise dealer is that market condition that would be having a great impact, as I have shared some of the the news cuttings with you guys from our country. You could see that the economic situation of the country would be having an impact on the dealerships. The some of the dealership themselves are terminating the contract because running a dealership is a costly affair. And if you are not generating the enough revenues, from where you're going to meet the cost? So you might go back and ask the manufacturers that I don't need that dealership. That the business is everybody is doing the business to generate the profit. Then the competition is getting intense again. As I told you that there was a time when there were only a few manufacturers and their dealerships were there. Dealerships were also not very common, so there were the few dealerships where everyone have to go there to buy the car. If you want to buy the car, you will have to go there. But now the competition is increasing. New manufacturers are coming up with the new type of the car which are more fuel efficient, which are more luxurious, those which more comfortable with the more safety features. So it is becoming a challenge. The competition is getting intense. Expenses. Dealerships have a huge infrastructure, a physical huge infrastructure. They need to maintain that showroom and the workshop, and then they need to have the human resources in those workshops. We have seen that in Welland, the dealerships are employing 625,000 people, employees in those 5,200 dealerships. So you could see that on average how many that if you would be dividing the 625,000 with the 5,200, you will see that on average how many of the employees are working at each dealership, right? So that's a huge number, by the way. So dealership is a capital intensive business. So you are paying the salaries and commission to the to the employees. You might be paying the rental for the land, or lease for the land, and then the other expenses, utility, all that, etc., etc. So running the dealership is a costly affair. So expenses are something which needs to be, which are a challenge for the dealerships. Then consumer confidence, that's very important now in a the era where the information is available, and that's available on your fingertips. Now the if something goes wrong, that goes viral so quickly. So that could have a detrimental effect on the consumer confidence. Consumer are becoming more and more demanding because they do have the now the choices. They could compare the services being provided by the one dealership with the other dealership. So that actually makes it hard for the dealerships to maintain the confidence of the consumer. And the one important factor that the customer coming to the dealership is the confidence. They do have the confidence that the dealerships are the authorized representative of the manufacturers. So whatever the services that they are getting from the dealership, those are more reliable. They could have a trust on it, and that is true. Like in our country, even when you are going to the dealership, we know that those are expensive, but you know that in heart of our heart, we do have a confidence that the services that we would be getting from the dealership would be more reliable compared to any other independent workshop. And if you are going to buy a new car from a dealership, you know that that is that the warranties are valid, etc., etc. Then the staff turnover, again, that's the challenge, because the employees are the critical success. Human resources for any dealerships are their critical success factor. uh, Human resources are very critical for the dealerships, because the moment the customer would be entering the dealership, you know that they would be interacting with the human resources who would be persuading them to buy the car. The sales people are very important, then the business people are very important, then the workshop people are very important. At each level, we do have the sales manager, then the business manager, then we have the head of the the those what we call that, the service manager, who is responsible for the workshop. So there's a team lead at, the at heading the each section of your workshop in order to manage the activities of that section effectively. Then the independent used only, then the challenges for the used only dealers, we studied that there are the two type of the dealership, the new car dealership and the used car dealership. The new car dealer are not allowed to sell the cars of any other brand except the brand of their own car, or the designated manufacturers. They are the dealers of the designated manufacturer, one designated manufacturer, but they could sell the used car of the other manufacturers as well. Independent used only dealers, limited inventory. That's important because again, you would be doing the inspection, so you would be keeping the cars which are meeting the quality. So you know that the generally when the people are selling the car, then there's a problem with the car. Otherwise, you know that why they would be selling it. The car has reached to a point where it becomes expensive to maintain it, etc., etc. So you know that limited inventory of the used car. Market condition, again, that would also be like for any new car. This would also be affecting the credit availability to consumer. Generally, the financial institution would be happy to finance the new car, but for the used car, we know that the banks, they restrict their financing to a certain limit. That they would be saying that a car, they would be financing the car which is 3 years old. That's it, or the 5 year old. Then you know that in our country, in order to discourage the sale of the cars, the government put a restriction that the banks cannot give the financing for a car beyond, you know, beyond a certain limit. Like if the car is more than 3 years old, then the bank would not be giving the financing. So that makes actually a challenge for the dealers of the used car, because financing is a mode which promotes the sales of the car. If you could remember that in the first decade of 2000, the first few years of 2000 from 2001 to 2006 7, there was a boom in consumer financing. Every the uh, Tom, Dick, and Harry was driving the car. The reason was they got a lease from the bank. There was a lenient criteria. You could go there, get a car, and that's why many of the people failed to their commitment, and they would have to. The banks have to acquire their cars through a lengthy process, and that's also a very cumbersome process. And then to resell the car in the market for the bank, it's a challenge for the bank. Competition, again, the same. Competition is getting intense, not only from the for the used car. The competition is from the new car as well. Sometimes you would be comparing it like you could get a low budget new car, or you gonna go for a good used car, a good more brands new used car, or you could go for a low budget new car. Then expenses, again, that's the same thing. So these are some of the the concern. You should know that for your dealership, even Cuppcar, these would be the challenges: the condition, market condition, uh, the expenses, consumer confidence, staff turnover, competition, credit availability. These are going to be the challenge for your company as well. So that's the whole thing that I wanted to tell you about the industry of the automotive industry, or you could say that the car dealerships. We were not. I'm not going to take you into the details because there is no much information, and that's actually not going to help us. So the information that has been given here in your pre-scene about the industry, that's good enough. So we are. I'm not going to put a lot of burden on you. We are now. This is the statement we that has been given, that we are aware that there has been and remains a significant amount of change globally. To assist with clarity and fairness, we do not expect students to factor these changes in when responding to or preparing for case study. This pre-scene and its associated exam, while aiming to reflect real life, are set in a context where current and ongoing the global issues have not had an impact, because we are living in a continuously changing environment. So in order to create a standard, they were saying that the your business environment is the business environment which has been given in the pre-scene. So you would not be your answer should not get affected from the real world business environment, because that's continuously changing. So there would not be any the stand the some although there is no standard answer, but again, there are certain the boundaries which have been defined through the information given in the pre-scene. So if you will make it open for the real world industry, then every country has their own situation. The students living in the every country, they do have their own circumstances. So they would be writing the answer, which then would become so difficult for the examiner to assess. It becomes so difficult, like if you would be writing an answer under the circumstances that you are facing here in our country, then a examiner who is assessing your answer sheet sitting in some different country, he cannot understand the dynamics of the Pakistan. So that's why they have told us that the real world industry would not be having an impact on your exam, that any real world example that you would be quoting, that should be just to explain, and that should not in contradiction to the pre-seen information. Remember, marks in the exam will be awarded for valid arguments that are relevant to the question asked. Answer that make a relevant reference to the current affair will, of course, be marked on their merit. So, if any argument that you are giving would be complementing, if that answer argument is complementing the information of the pre-scene, then that would be credited. Otherwise, if it would be going in contradiction to the information given in the pre-scene, that would not be helping us. So it's a table of content again. Quickly, introduction: car dealerships, then the new car sales, fleet leasing, used car sales, parts and services, financing, finance and insurance, staff roles. Cuppcar, and the same thing has been repeated for the Cuppcar. There is a lot of repetition of the information in your this pre-scene. Reason being there are certain things which have been told in the industry, and those have been explained with relevant to your Cuppcar company dealership. So Cuppcar is a quoted company that operates 214 car dealership that are spread across its home country of Welland. Each dealership sells new and used cars and related products and services. So when we say that a company is a quoted company, there are the advantages and disadvantages of being a quoted company. The disadvantage is that the reporting requirements are stringent, high compliance cost, and diluted control. Diluted when you are a listed company, your sales shares are available in the market. Anybody can buy it. So, you know that a large number of the people would be holding your shares. So, that would be diluting your control. Advantage is access to finance. A listed company is subject to more stringent regulatory requirement. It means that the information that has been mentioned in your accounts is prepared under the regulations. So, you know, the certain rules and regulation, and that has been scrutinized and audited. So, that is more reliable. Public awareness in even company valuation. Company valuation, when your company shares are being traded in the market, so you could determine the value of the company. So 212, 14 car dealerships, customer segment for new and used cars are different. We have not been told that these dealerships are basically from the manufacturer. So you could say that all of these 214 dealerships are from the manufacturers. So these are the new car dealerships. How much resources are being used by each type of the car sale? If you are selling the new and a used car from the car dealership, you need to understand that how much of your resources are being consumed by each type of your business segment. So you could divide your business segment. It has been categorically mentioned that what type of the revenue streams you are generating from your business. So we know that we are generating the revenue from the sale of new car, sale of used car, sale of warranties, sale of the financing plans, providing the workshop services in the workshop. Those services again are segregated services being provided to the customer whose those services are falling under the warranty, and then the services which are beyond the warranty and you are charging to the customer. For the services providing being provided under warranty are charged to the manufacturers because that warranty has been given by the manufacturer. So each type of the revenue or the activity is consuming your resources. So that needs to be seen. Activity based costing is all about that, how much of the overheads are being used by the each type of the activity. So you could understand that how much of the overheads are being consumed, because there are a lot of overheads, by the way, in the dealership, because your rentals are fixed. Your some of the part of the salaries of your human resources is fixed. Utilities cost is fixed, almost the fixed, so that is independent of the sales. So you need to understand that how much of your space is actually your important thing, that how much of the space is being used by each of the activity. That would also be having a that also needs to be evaluated. So probability from each profitability from each type of the service. So the segments profitability, product profitability. So in this case, service profitability, which of the services giving you which how much of the profitability, that has been then explained in the later part of the pre-scene. So Welland's currency is W dollar. Wellandian company law requires the companies to prepare their financial statement in accordance with the international financial reporting standards. You are a financial manager at a Cuppcar's head office. Your primary responsibilities are associated with management accounting.
एक्सक्यूज मी सर।
Yes, please.
सर वो स्क्रीन बिल्कुल रुकी हुई है, तो आप कौन से स्लाइड पे है? वो कॉन्टेक्स्ट स्टेटमेंट वाली स्लाइड मुझे अभी भी नजर आ रही है। सो इज इट फाइन?
नहीं, 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 इंट्रोडक्शन वाली स्लाइड है। बाकी लोगों को कौन सी
और कोई
इंट्रोडक्शन
नजर आ
वाली नहीं है? कोई और जरा कंफर्म कर दे।
इंट्रोडक्शन वाली आ रही है सर।
इंट्रो आ रही है।
इंट्रोडक्शन वाली
सर इंट्रोडक्शन वाली आ
सर
रही
बस फिर मेरे इंटरनेट में फर्क होगा, सॉरी।
हाँ, आपके शायद हाँ इंटरनेट में, ठीक है, इंट्रोडक्शन वाली है। जो बात हो रही है, अगर वो स्लाइड नजर नहीं आ रही तो काइंडली आप बता दिया करें, फिर आप चाहे वो मेरी तरफ से हो प्रॉब्लम या आपकी तरफ से, दैट नीड्स टू बी सॉर्टेड आउट, ठीक है। अब इंट्रोडक्शन ये मैं
ठीक है
आपके
सर।
साथ खैर बाद में भी शेयर भी कर लूंगा, अभी कल मैं शेयर करूंगा, इसको कंप्लीट कर लूंगा तो फिर शेयर करूंगा ये document. So you are a
Sure.
financial manager. So responsibilities of the financial managers are the financial reporting, project appraisal, management reports, leading teams, stakeholder management, implementation of the strategies. You are a manager. You know that you middle management. Or the major role of the middle management is to implement the decisions of the top management. This is the one of the learning outcome of the that is tested in the exam as well. So generally the students are confused that what is that. So actually when you are evaluating some proposal of the top management, you are implementing their decision. They are asking that they have taken this decision and that needs to be evaluated. You need to do the project management for it. So you are actually implementing their decision. So that's why I told you that I tell the students that you should not be worried about those 5 segments on the basis of which you are assessed in the exam. Those are something automatic. You know that the course has been structured in such a manner that there are the certain topics falling under the one heading. So when you would be writing the exam, you would be automatically writing under those headings. I will explain it to you later. I do have that slide which will be telling you that how the exam is segregated. So feature of the quoted company, you are a quoted company. So feature of the quoted company, access to the capital markets to raise the finance, stringent compliance to regulation, ease in raising finance from banks, expensive to generate the financial reports. You need to have the chartered accountant firms to be hired as the auditor, etc. Easy to raise the finance, which could be used for R&D or to fund the capital expenditure, help to determine the true value of the company. Shares are being traded, so capitalization, market capitalization gives you a starting point to value the company, to determine the value of the company. You will see that at a strategic level, when you would be reading the business valuation, you will see that determine the value to determine the value of a listed company is a much easier task than determining the value of an unlisted company. It gives a chance to do the acquisition using its share instead of cash. That exchange, share exchange, etc. Increase the confidence of investors, suppliers, and the customers as listing require rigorous due diligence, because if you are now subject to the external audit and you do have the legal, the represent you do you are complying with the Security and Exchange Commission. Like here, we do have the Security and Exchange Commission. In other countries, it might be some different authority. Then you know that you are meeting with the requirements of the stock exchange. So all those requirements are quite rigorous and makes your information more credible. Then the car dealerships, this is about now the industry. The information is about the industry. The cup car information would be presented later in the later part of the pre-scene. So the car dealership sell cars and related products and services to the consumer. Dealers can operate as a single location businesses, or they can have the multiple sites. By the way, you need to understand that you are a company. Your name is XY Private Limited. Now your company would be having the dealership of A manufacturer, B manufacturer, C manufacturer. You could have the multiple dealership because the dealership is for a specific location. When you go for a dealership, you will say that I need a dealership for a XYZ city in Welland and in that specific area. So they would be giving you a dealership for that specific location. Now you go again there, you will see that you will ask them, I need a dealership for a city in the Welland, ABC city, and the XYZ location. Because the dealerships are giving for a specific city for a specific location, because the manufacturers, they don't give the dealership more than one dealership for a one location, because that would be creating an unfair competition, and that would be going in not in the interest of the dealership, because there are the basically the idea is that there is an encatchment area of every dealership, so the people living in that area probably would be visiting that dealership, although in reality it's not true. Some of the customers might be driving to another dealership which is far away from their home, but generally speaking people prefer to go to the dealerships which are close to their house. So that's why they give some, the advantage to the dealership if there is only one dealership in their locality, and in return the dealership also would be selling exclusively to a one manufacturer's car through the dealership. So this is a arrangement that's in the franchise. So they can have multiple sites. Individual sites are referred to as dealership. Generally each dealership operate with significant amount of discretion, like they're saying that the dealership have their own discretion. The principal dealership principal, they would be having the authority to decide on the discounts. They would be having the authority that they who would be displaying the car, or they would be having the layout of the workshop. But generally speaking, these are more or less the same. But the selling techniques, the discounts they offer to the customer, that's the sole discretion of the dealership principal, right? So multiple sites operating with a significant discretion make each dealership responsible. The point that needs to be understand is that when the dealership principal dealership has the authority to take the decisions, then he has the responsibility as well. Authority comes with the responsibility, so it's a kind of a responsibility center. And to my understanding, each dealership is a profit center. You need to generate enough profit to run your expenses, because expenses are important. We have seen that it is a top concern for the dealership. You have the authority, to my understanding, the dealership principal has the authority to hire the staff, what type of the salesperson they need to have, what type of the business manager they need to have, the workshop, etc., etc. So now they are responsible for the profit. That do not have, they might not have the authority to make the investments, but they have the authority to run the affairs of the dealership. So that's more like a profit center where they are responsible to generate enough revenues to meet the expenses of their dealership. And if the head office, your company, Cuppcar, for instance, like here. So if the company would be feeling that this dealership is not generating enough revenue, they might change the dealership principal. They might be even terminating the agreement for that dealership. They might be closing down that dealership. So that could be the result, right? In that case, that you might be facing the problems, how to manage the redundancy, etc., etc. So, in a case study, the examiner could give any situation and they could ask for a question. So from even this discussion, you could see that if a dealership is being closed down, they could test you on those concepts that you studied in the managing performance. So individual sites are referred to as dealership. Generally, each dealership has a operates with a significant amount of discretion. Concept of responsibility centers need to be revised. We studied that, and we're gonna see here briefly. New car dealerships are franchised by car manufacturers. Franchises give dealerships franchises give dealership the right to sell car. There is a franchise agreement, right? Now the franchises give dealership the right to sell car made under their manufacturer's brand, right? For example, Barto Motor is a popular car manufacturer that makes several model of car that are sold under the Barto Motor brand name. Franchise dealership cannot sell new car unless, now the franchised and dealership, this the same thing again. They are using it because it's a the franchises of the automotive companies called the dealership. So actually they are the franchises. Franchise dealerships cannot sell new car unless they were made by their designated car manufacturer. So a Barto Motors car, a dealership which company which has the dealership of the Barto Motor, they would be selling the cars of the Barto Motor. That's it, right? That's all they would want to say. That restriction doesn't apply to used car. New car dealership can sell used car from any manufacturer. We have talked about that. And the reason why, what is the reason behind it? Because that in order to increase the sale of the new car, the dealership accept the used car as an exchange to sell the new car. So they would accept the used car and then they would be selling it as a used car after doing some maintenance work, preparing it, and then they would be selling it. Uh, I remember that when this um, there was a car of Suzuki Ciaz, if you could remember. Suzuki Ciaz was a good car. One of my acquaintance, he was working for that for one dealership of Suzuki, and in order to increase the sale of that car, they were asking that they are accepting the all type of the cars in exchange, like Toyota, Honda car in exchange to sell their car. There might be other dealerships as well which might be doing the. So actually, when you do that, that this is actually when you allow the manufacturer allow the dealership to use sell the used car of any manufacturer. Actually, this is the reason behind it, because the new dealerships would be accepting the used car, so obviously they need to sell it. So that is allowed to sell it, the used car of any manufacturer. So used car dealerships sell only used car which can be of any brand. So used car dealerships actually are not given by any manufacturer. Those are the independent dealerships. We have seen here independent used only dealers. Independent. These are the independent. Whereas these are the dealerships, franchised by the manufacturer, right? So this is the difference. Then this is just an idea, a brief idea. This is how the distribution channel works, because dealerships are the distribution channel. There's an ecosystem of any industry, and then there is a distribution channel. Key customers, you would be knowing about your customer through the various, uh, the through the various techniques. Then that uh, there are the online channels through which you could approach the customer. We have been told in your pre-scene that the customer would be looking at a specific car through your website or some other website, and then they would be walking to your showroom, and then that they might even place an order online for the car, etc. etc. Just a pictorial description of the distribution channel, and we all are quite familiar that how this distribution channels work. So channel can be direct or indirect. Distribution can also be physical or digital, depending on the kind of the business and industry. Now, so many of the companies, they are selling their products through Alibaba, for instance, or AliExpress or Draz. Now, the Draz is a digital, not a physical distribution channel, whereas that the others are selling their products through the franchise, like J Dot, Bonanza, etc. These all shops that you see for these brands, these are not owned by the same company. The parent company has given the franchises actually, and those most of those shops are franchised shops, franchised by the brand. Car dealerships usually have the following facilities: showroom. The showroom is an indoor space that can be used to display cars and promotional materials. Sales staff usually work at desk in the showroom or in office immediately beside it. We have seen the pictorial description. So dealerships require specific layout. So land is required. This land could be purchased or leased. That needs to be seen. We have not been told in explicitly in the pre-scene material that that in your case, Cup car, the land is purchased or leased. In both cases, establishing dealership infrastructure requires significant investment, because you need to construct a specific design building which cannot be used for any other purpose. You go there and see that, or the dealership layout is that can we use that building for another purpose? I don't think that these car dealership building structure is of a specific nature. um, Establishing a dealership could test the concept of the financing and the project management. As I told you that you are going to establish a new dealership, that could be taken as a project, because every dealership has its own dynamics, it's unique. You could go for raising the financing for it, and that uh, for that you might have to see that what are the financing resources are available to you. You could might be then telling your top management that what are the sources which are available to you, and what cost what each source would be costing, and what are the pros and cons, and what is the what source is most suitable for your company. Similarly, you might be telling that while we would be establishing a new dealership, we could apply the concept of the project management. We assign a project manager. We could start like PID, the project initiating document, which would be having the scope and initial scope, budget, etc., the details of the project, and then we could plan. We could do those project initiating documents. The initiating phase, and then the planning, and similarly, all those phases that you have studied. Showrooms are rarely large enough to display all cars held by the dealership. Most dealerships have an outside space that can be used to display the cars that cannot be accommodated in the showroom. The car lot can also have a space set aside for customer parking. So customer parking is very. I was telling you that there is a picture here. So this is how a car lot might be looking like. You could see that a picture taken from top. Cars parked outside. It is not very common in our country, but in some of the countries that's quite common. But it's common here as well. Not all the dealerships, but that I have seen some of the dealerships, they do have their car lot. So how cup car is maintained? Now the cars parked inside and outside, there's a lot of difference. You need to understand. There might be a concern customer. Just imagine that you went there to a dealership to buy a car. So would you buy a car which is being parked here in the car lot since a month or two? That in open air, you might not be buying it. People generally don't buy the cars which are there on the display. That's a challenge. So you need to ensure that the car are secured, and they are maintained in such a manner that the customer could buy it. So insurance coverage, when your cars are outside, those are exposed to the risk. So you need to understand that how you could cover it. You might get some insurance for it, or some other measure that you need to take. Um, and not very important, but just that thing came to my mind that this could be the one aspect that needs to be considered. Car dealerships are equipped to maintain and repair the car. So, new and the used car must be checked and adjusted before they can be released to customers. Customers may also require their cars to be fitted with the extras at time of purchase. Every time a new car is sold to a customer, they would be having a quick check of the car. Sometimes, the people get the mats, the spoilers, etc., to be installed on their car. So that would also be done at the workshop. It may be necessary to repair defects in cars that were not detected at the time of sale. Uh, that the people might be bringing back the car. There was a lot of the stories about the many new cars which were introduced in our market in the recent past, that that the car was having this problem and that problem, etc. So, customer may wish to pay the dealership to carry out repairs if their car break down or suffer accidental damage. And if it is not insured and it is not under the warranty, then the customer would be paying directly. Otherwise, the insurance company would be paying, or the manufacturer. If it is under warranty, then the manufacturer would be paying for it. Car must be serviced at a regular interval to ensure that they are safe to drive, and also to extend their life. Car manufacturer also require regular servicing for their warranties will be void. That's very common. Like you need to go there every 5,000 kilometers. They would be doing the service, etc., changing the fuel, oil, and filters and the other consumable things, doing the service, brake service, you know. So quality assurance and quality control is important in workshop job. Availability of appropriate equipment and the training of staff is also of paramount importance. That's where human resources are at the center of your whole business model. Actually, the customer is at center of their business model, but in order to make your customer happy, you need to maintain your human resources and to keep them happy. Actually, they will be then keeping your customers happy, because your whole business model is dependent on the customer services, and in customer services business, the staff holds a great, the importance. You need to train them. You need to, while hiring, you need to ensure that you are getting the right type of the people. They should be motivated. They should be well trained. How Cuppcar can maintain quality in its dealership workshop, quality management concept, that those needs to be um, studied. I believe that those have been. Now, that I talked about the project management and financing concepts here. So there is a brief recap of that concept with the asset base, which the Cuppcar owns. Their gearing is probably 40%. We do that in detail, because knowing that gearing is also like there are the two ways: debt plus equity divided by um, debt plus equity, and debt divided by equity. That gives the different, the gearing, which gives a leverage to raise finance through the bank borrowing. One thing you need to understand is that the bank borrowing is also cheap, always cheaper. Reason: it is interest payments are tax deductible. Second, because the bankers, the financial institute, they're not going to take the risk because they get the definite returns on their investment, so they are not taking the risk, so the return is also low. For the equity, returns are high and you are sharing the ownership. So that is considered as a safe investment. You would not be losing the ownership. You will have to pay the less if your business is doing well. But in case if your business goes down, then these are the firm commitments you need to pay no matter you are making money or not. Whereas for the equity financing, that if you would be making money, you could announce the dividends, or if you are not making money, you won't be announcing the dividend. Cuppcar got a fixed base asset base which could give it advantage. Use it as a advantage to use it as a security against bank borrowing under the given a fixed basis, because your property, plant and equipment in your balance sheet, you will see that there is a decent amount sitting there in property, plant and equipment. So, I assume that there are certain assets which could be used as a collateral to raise the finances. Under the given circumstances, this information needs to be remembered. You will be referring these facts in your answers while you would be structuring your answers. So that is the reason we are reading it. Under the given circumstances of Cuppcar mentioned in pre-scene, if Cuppcar has to raise finance, it looks like they should go for the bank borrowing. However, if Cuppcar go for raising finance through equity, they have the following option. They could go for IPO, they could go for the placing, etc. That has been explained. I'm not going to get into the details again. IPO could be made through at a fixed price set by the company, or in a tender offer. There was a tender, you studied about it. If you don't remember, go back. This is the time to revise these concepts. This is important. In placing shares arrangement, shares are not offered to the public, but issuing house will place shares with institutional client, like in the insurance company, investment funds. They would be buying your shares, right? So then again, debt financing could be at a fixed or a floating charge. However, it could have a following condition: dividend restriction. You know that the loan financial institution might put a restriction that you would not be paying the dividend to the shareholder in order to keep a good uh, liquidity, because your liquidity would ensure the payment of the interest and the principal to the banks. Maintaining financial ratio, publishing financial report, issue of further debt. Maintaining financial ratios mean that debt to equity ratio you need to maintain. Publishing financial reports, because the information would be available to the public, and the bank would also be getting by the information from those financial reports. Other sources of financing could be retained earnings, sale and lease back. You know, if the property of the dealership is owned by Cuppcar, this source of finance can also be used. Project management, it's again a brief introduction. Initiating, define a new project, its vision and overall scope. There is a PID document again that if you don't remember, don't recall that what was the project management concept. This is you a chance for you to go back and go into the detail of to read it once more. What is the planning function? establishing the scope of the project in detail and define the action, resources, and timelines required to meet the project objectives. Then monitoring and controlling is an oversight function, then executing is the implementation of the project, and then the closing. As I told you that while we would be doing the pre-scene analysis, I told you that we would be touching those topics, but we will not go into the details because we have already studied. So in your company, if you are going for a project, you if and applying the project management, you would just be relating it with the situation. That in our situation, we would be, explaining the project scope. We would be, defining the we would be appointing a project manager. We would be preparing the schedule plan. We would be preparing the budget plan. We would be preparing the quality plan, human resource plan, etc., etc. Then would be executing all those plans, and you will be creating a, steering committee, project board, sponsor board. You if you remember that we have studied about it. So that will every role would be having certain tasks to perform. Then total quality management, two basic principle of TQM: get it right first time. Cost of prevention is less than cost of correction. um, Cost of prevention you could do through training. So if the trained staff is less likely to do the mistakes. Continuous improvement, dissatisfaction with the status quo, that and zero defect goal. So you would be improving it by improving in technology, introducing the new advanced tools, more advanced training to your staff. Then the cost of quality, conformance cost. If you are not meeting the, that the quality uh, standard, there are the two types of the cost. One is the conformance cost, in conformance prevention cost, appraisal cost, and then non-conformance. Internal failure and external failure. Generally speaking, it is more related to a production environment, but that could be applied in your case study as well. Prevention cost, training is a prevention cost. Appraisal cost is that after that you have done the work, maintenance work, you could go around and take a round on the car and to check it whether it is working well. Appraisal cost in terms that your staff is your man hour is your product that you are selling. That is the service. A person working 8 hours in your workshop, every hour cost you something. So if they are spending that time on some consumer or customer, that is your actually the cost of that's being incurred for that customer. So that's important, that how much they're spending on the customer. So time, how much time they're spending on the customer. Then the non-conformance, that the claims they would be coming back to you that the work done is not right. So you might have to do the rework. Yeah? Internal failure, that you did the work but that's not rectified the problem, so you have to do it again. External, that the customer go out and come back again to you. Steps in implementation of the total commitment throughout the organization: get close to customer, plan to do all jobs right first time, agree. These are the general things. You could write it from your own experience as well, but you should relate it with your situation. Continually measure the performance level achieved, measure the cost of quality mismanagement, and level of firefighting. Firefighting means that without plan doing something, that you don't have a actual the plan and just responding to a situation when arises. Recognize the achievements and make quality a way of life. Um, Again, this is something related to production environment, but that could be related at a workshop, business process reengineering. We have not been told that how the things operate in the workshop. In the workshop, different type of the tasks are performed, so there would be a process. We have been told about those tasks, the general maintenance, paint, and etc. etc., but not in detail. So there might be a change in your business processes in order to improve the efficiency. So business process reengineering is the act of recreating core business process with the goal of improving product output, quality, and reducing the generally, that what they do is that they actually look at the process, that whether this process is good. Now in public sector organization, generally people say that these organizations are not operating well because of the primitive business processes they do have. They are not ready to change. They are not changing their business process in accordance to the modern practices. So that's like called the business practice, just to make you feel that what the business process is. So typically it involves the analysis of company workflows, finding processes that are subpar or inefficient, and figuring out ways to get rid of them or changing them. So there is a way to do it. You would be defining the objective and framework that you want to achieve, identify customer needs, because your processes actually revolves around the customer needs. Those processes should be adding value to the customer. So that's very important. So if you would know the customer needs, only then you would be able to see that how you can add value to the customer. Study the existing process, formulate a redesign plan, implement the redesign plan. Okay, so let's, I believe, finish it here because 10:30 was my commitment, and Murad साहब told me in a separate message कि इनका 10:30 बजे कहीं अपनी ये फिक्स करेंगे, तो 6 मिनट है.